And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I'm not so up on the video game side of the gaming field. Sorry, guys. I know there's probably a lot of you watching the video right now because you love Gears of War, the video game, and I expect this video is going to get a lot of hits just for the name alone. And you're coming in saying, "What board game?" And you're probably yelling at me right now because I don't know that much about Gears of War, but I do know that the students that I teach love the game. It's some kind of first-person shooter where you go in and you fight yet another rip-off of the Doom theme style so many years ago. So, Gears of War itself is a cooperative game where players will take figures, go through, and fight their way through this, I was about to say dungeon, but you're fighting your way through different rooms and different levels, and there's different scenarios involved in the game. Let's check it out, and I'll tell you if it's good. There's a pretty hefty rulebook that comes with the game, 32 pages. It's really not that difficult of a game to play. I really think perhaps they could have gone over the rules once more, because there's a lot of rules that matter that are like buried, like over here is a rule that you need, and over here is an important rule, and they only mention some of these rules a couple times. And I'm not going to go over every rule here, because I'll probably make a mistake somehow. But you're going to be taking a scenario, and the scenarios are in cards. I think it would have been better if the scenarios had been in a book, but I guess this makes it easier for them to sell more scenarios. But the scenarios are in different cards, and these cards will tell you how to set up a scenario. Now, a scenario is never really exact. You have all these different tiles, and each scenario will use different tiles in the course of the game. In fact, there's a couple really giant tiles, too, that you can use. But when you bring out the tiles for each level, each scenario has, several levels, you will place these tiles randomly, because there's some cards that come with the game that show all the different rooms, and you will shuffle the ones together, and then you'll draw them in order, and that will tell you the first card, the second card, the third card. It will also tell you what monsters to put on the card. Now, before we go any farther, I have to say that the models, the miniatures for this game are absolutely stunning. I mean, they're really well done. I'm very impressed with how good they look. If I had any kind of painting ability, I would love to be able to use these. They're great. They're just amazing. The only ones that I'm not a big fan of are the Marine models, and that's because, see this guy holding the grenade? That's wonderful. The other three guys look really similar, which isn't useful. The game comes with cards that talk about the special abilities of each character and the bad guys. It shows what weapons that character starts with and a special ability that they might have on these cards. There's also cards with weapons, and an interesting feature of this game is in the course of weapons, you have a certain amount of ammunition that you take to use these weapons, and when you fire a weapon, that shows how many dice you roll. But you can overcharge the weapon and use, like, for example, this one, 5 dice, but when you do that, then you use up a piece of ammunition. So you have to determine if you're willing to use the regular amount or overcharge it and get the extra weapon. Sometimes you have no option. This one always uses ammunition, and when you run out of ammunition for a weapon, you have no more. Now, this game very much accurately simulates a run them through, shoot them up type scenario of a first-person shooter, because you run through, you shoot. When an enemy dies, there's a good chance that they will have ammunition. But you have to realize that the enemies in this game are very tough. The game uses a very simple roll, attack dice versus defense dice, subtract the number of cure symbols from the number of wounds to see if you've hit the person. When you hit an enemy, you either wound it or kill it. Many times when you wound it, you'll put this mark underneath it to show that it's wounded. The next time it's wounded, it is dead. You then turn the wound marker over, which shows whether it's dropped a gun or ammunition, or whether it's dropped nothing. Okay? But these enemies will keep on spawning. The basic general aspect of the game goes, one player goes, and then the bad guys go. One player goes, and the bad guys go. When the bad guys go, they draw a card, and it will tell you, so this one says for each ticker. So every ticker monster on the board, they will do this. Otherwise, they do this. If there's no tickers in play for some reason, you draw a new card. So no matter what, never think you're going to get a breather here. You're going to keep drawing cards, and the enemy's going to come attack you. You only put the cards in the game for the enemies that you're using. Then after the bad guys go, then a Marine goes, and the bad guys go, then a Marine goes. When the good guys go, you will be able to use one of these cards from your hand. Now you can use a card. Your cards are your life, so you're basically spending a life to do something, which I really don't understand that thematically. I know that it's a cool mechanic, but I don't know how that makes sense. You know, like if I want to move, I have to cut myself or something. So you lose health every time that you use a card. And you have to use a card to move a couple spaces, or you can use a card to attack, or you can do whatever the card says. And usually what the cards say is better than doing moving or attacking. Like this one says, move up to 3 areas and perform 1 attack. Well, that's better. Also, the cards have an icon in the corner that allow a player to do something. Like, for example, you might be able to follow somebody else when they move. Or you might be able to get an extra defense. Or you might be able to basically ready yourself so that when an enemy moves, you fire at them. And so you're blowing away the enemies, and you're moving through, because if you don't move, the enemies will just keep coming back up. There's spawn points where the enemies come, and there's a possibility that you can seal those with grenades and lock them down. But usually your goal is to get to a door, to get to one of these question marks, and accomplish whatever the goal is for that mission. And so really, that's the basic thesis of the game. You will have bad guys coming in waves. You will start with a certain number of weapons, and you'll find maybe some more weapons as the game progresses. But other than that, you're just going to roll, move, shoot, you know. Go try to get to the next level, open the door, do whatever. Then we bring out the tiles for the next level. You go through that level, then the next level. And eventually, after one of the levels, you'll win. Either that or you'll die. When you lose all the cards from your hand, every time you're shot, you know, you'll lose cards. When you have no cards left in your hand, you're bleeding out. You're not dead, you're bleeding out. Someone else can come over and give up a card to stop you from bleeding out, and then at the beginning of your turn, you'll draw 2 cards, which isn't as useful as you think, because you draw 2 cards at the beginning of your turn, but you have to use one to do an action. You're down to 1, so 1 shot takes you down, and then you're probably bleeding out again. When all 4 of the players, or however many, if you're only playing with 2 or 3, when everybody's bleeding out, then the game is over, and the bad guys have won. Other than that, if you get through the bad guys, not kill them all, because I don't think that's even possible, but get through, accomplish your mission, then you have won the game collectively as a group. If you've watched my videos at all, you know that I'm a big fan of cooperative games. You know that I like cooperative games when they're difficult. I like ghost stories, but you know, I want a chance of winning, but I don't mind if they're hard, because that's fun for me. Well, you know what? I don't know what it is, but this game is not fun for me. And I think maybe part of that is because I feel helpless, and I never feel like the big play is made. We're like, woohoo, yeah, I just killed off 2 small guys, and then some more guys go. And I'm just not a big fan of the using cards for life / then using them in the game. It sounds good in theory, but I just didn't like it in this game. The models are incredible. Beautiful. The whole production is really nice. The idea, from what I've talked to the kids, you know, checking this out, you know, with the kids in the know, it seems to be very true to the game. And I guess the video game is difficult too, but I never felt like I was running in and going, I felt like I was doing this. All right, fire, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now I'm going to stand here while you hit me, and then you hit me, and then you hit me, and then you hit me. Can I go yet? Okay, let's go. And man, I don't like it. And no one else that I played with has liked it so far either. Although some people have said, hey, let's try more scenarios. Let's do bigger and better things. So I gave it more than 1 shot. You know, I thought, well, maybe I just had a bad time of it. I'm just not seeing it. So with that being said, I can see some people enjoying this. I'm sure that if you are a Gears of War fan, you're going to buy the game regardless, just because. And there's some good, decent mechanics in the game. I like the ammunition, where you can use it or not, but you know what? When it comes down to it, you need to use it every time. And the weakest enemies in this game are slapping the snot out of you. So, I don't know. I can't really quantify it other than saying that it's really hard and gave me this feeling of not dread that I could overcome, but weariness. As in, yes, they're beating me. I know they're beating me up. Can we get this over with to get to the next game? So I don't want to be harsh on this game because it isn't a tremendous production, and there's some people who like it. It's just definitely not my style.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.